Jeff and I've known him since high school as well, and he's always been one I looked up to, and it's just funny because he looks up to me, I look up to him. Like we're like Forrest Gump, like you lean on me and I lean on you, and that way we don't slip in the mud. Hey everyone, welcome to the ZHZ Podcast special New Year's Eve episode. I'm your host, Zach Davis.
And I'm Matt Allen, your other host. Not only are we the voices behind this podcast, which launched last August, but we're also proud members of the alt-reggae rock ska band Z Frequency.
That's right, Matt. We're excited to be here with you all as we recap this incredible year of music. The purpose of tonight's episode is to look back on all the amazing singles we've released since January and to share some behind-the-scenes stories from our journey.
And because we had such a blast this year, we've decided to make this a yearly tradition. Every New Year's Eve, you can count on us to bring you a special episode where we reflect on the year's highlights and give you a sneak peek into what's coming next.
Before we dive in, we just want to remind you to support Z Frequency by streaming our music on Spotify, Apple Music, and don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on YouTube for more exclusive content and updates.
We appreciate every bit of your support. Now, let's get this show started and take a trip down memory lane.
Matt, how the hell are you, man?
I'm living the dream, Z. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I've kind of being winter, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I'm used to it. But I always get like this, like more of a low during the winter time. So it's kind of like I don't want to say I'm a Downer Davis, but man, it's like I grapple with just, I don't know if it's lack of sun. I don't know, man.
I don't know. It's a seasonal thing, man.
It's weird.
I get it. It's, holiday season is always full of stress and it just,
maybe.
I don't know. It's that time of year, though.
I'm excited for this episode because
we get to talk about ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
You really, we've talked to so many just amazing artists on this season of the show, but
we'll go into
this
that
time. We get to talk about our stuff,
right? So we thought it would be cool. My throat. Okay. So it'd be really cool to recap, like do an episode, a recap episode every year. We call it the New Year's Eve episode, where we're going to go through kind of the year that we had with Z Frequency. And because of Z Frequency, we are now involved in this podcast, which at the time in January when it first kicked off, I had no idea that we would be doing this. And it turns out to be a whole lot of fun, man. To the point
it's a blast.
Where, like I have to remind myself that I'm a musician and that I still got to work on that stuff. It's been so much fun.
It's been interesting trying to find the balance. And, I think that we went really hard with the Z Frequency stuff the first half of the year. The second half of the year has been a lot more focus on the ZHZ podcast. And then I think that as we jump into 2025, we'll have, we've kind of got both kind of pushed out the door and out
balance
out for everybody. And then it's about finding the balance and making sure that neither one goes ignored for too long.
Correct. But, the other cool thing is, I had I had a system in place throughout the whole year. And so by the time that the podcast really started picking up, I still had music in the works, so
right.
It was still flowing, it was almost like sandbagging stuff for this, I guess, or the unknowns, I guess. But the original goal was to put out a song every month. And then at the end of the year, around October, we were going to release maybe 2 or 3 more that haven't been released and then release the whole thing as an album. We're still going to do that. But I didn't quite hit that goal. I had some stuff come up at work where I had to go out of town for a few weeks. And then the podcast started and we had to...
Well, really, honestly, the podcast was the monkey wrench that got thrown into there. By the way, like the beginning of the year, or really end of last year, when you told me, my goal for 2024 is release a song a month all year, and then we'll not release anything in December. October, November, we'll release like 3 songs all at once, and we'll release it all as an album. And it's like, my God, that is ambitious, man.
It was.
And then in August, you call me up and say, hey, man, I got an idea.
Right.
Let's do a podcast.
Well, so years ago when Matt was serving his mission, we used to, we would record on a little cassette tape, like a little cassette recorder, and we would just talk, and then we'd fill up both sides, and then I would talk about whatever I was going through in my head at the time or what was going through life. And then every now and then, if a new song come out, I'd put it on there for him, and then I'd mail it off to Matt. And then like a month later, I'd get something from him, and it was a cassette tape of like an hour and a half or 2 hours of talking, and it just made sense for us to try to do the podcasting. We spent a lot of time talking since the beginning. It was like doing podcasts before podcast was even a podcast,
Right. Well, and I mean, even before that, growing up pre-internet, pre-cell phone, pre-text messaging, when we were scheming band stuff, man, it'd just be spending hours on the phone in the evening,
Right.
I remember, and Zach, for those that don't know, when Zach talks on the phone, he paces. And I remember in your mom's kitchen, you had the phone hanging on the wall, and you guys had like the extra long cord, and there was a path worn in the carpet.
30-foot cord.
Yeah. But then there was this path worn in the carpet through the kitchen, into the living room, and down into the hallway and around. And Zach would just pace back and forth and back and forth and back and forth while we, scheme our big dreams, planning, deep blues takeover of the world.
That's right. It was a lot of fun, though.
It was a blast
there. So anyway, so we were releasing music, and we were doing really good January, February, March, and we're going to go over all the songs that were released, and we're going to give a shout out to all the musicians, and if we have anything to say about those songs or whatever. We'll talk a little bit about what are experimenting with, diving into some social media and learning how to, do that, being an old dude. Do some marketing. We'll play into that and what that looks like going forward, and then we'll talk a little bit about the podcast and how that came about, and then we'll just kind of spend the rest of the time talking about our plans for 2025. However, Matt and I did a pre-recorded little interview with Jeff Huso, who's a huge part of this. There's some other guys that are a part of it. I didn't get a chance to interview them, but I have a feeling I'm going to do right out of the gate, one of our new episodes for the next season is going to be Mike Lomax, who is the drummer for Z Frequency. He deserves his own show.
Absolutely.
So I want to put him on. I want to put Mike Olesko on. He's a big part of not just Z Frequency, but like my life,
Right.
A lot of these cats, some I've met for the first time this year and got to be really good friends with, and some I've known for a really long time, and some that are like I've known and lost touch with, and then now we've, kind of connected again. So I gotta say, overall, this has been a pretty fantastic year. Like my goal, it was a year ago in August, so August, not last August, the one before that, is kind of where I decided that I wanted to push Z Frequency as a new thing. And I think what spawned from that was just, we were in the middle of doing Hooray Who, and Hooray Who was kind of going through some turmoil, and we had a lot of members, and just logistically trying to get everybody, we were kind of burning ourselves out and rehearsing, and not really, we had a few shows, that we booked, and we got some recording. We got an excellent recording session with Bruce Kirby. Shout out to Bruce Kirby for taking us in for that recording session. I owe you one, man. But it was just tough, and I was thinking to myself, there's got to be an easier way to do this, and my thought was, why don't I just kind of have all these songs that never went anywhere before? This is before Hooray Who got back together, right? So Z Frequency's been around for actually a while, since like 2013, but it's always been shelved. It's kind of like this pet project, and never really produced anything, or what. Like, it was kind of like my attempt to do something musically before I didn't have before Hooray Who. Like, it was like I was trying to do something, but it never got legs, and then I worked with Eddie Buckley, and Jeff Aaron came by. I think even Ryan Hawthorne came down for a session to play with. And so it's going through some magicians. It's going through some magicians.
You're a magician?
Right. even Scott Francis from Nine Spine, and anyway, it hit, and it just like put axe on everything. Like it just iced the whole project. And then at kind of that time, I started doing the motorcycle thing, and so I was busy doing YouTube with Dad Bod Motovlog. But then Hooray Who started to get back together. Yeah, like we started a text feed, or somebody started a bug. I think it was Aaron.
It was
Drake.
Dave's wife. Yeah,
Aaron Drake started it, and then they buzzed.
Well, the fun thing about that was that she just messaged you and I just on a whim, just to throw out there, hey, that Dave and I got together right after the last Hooray Who reunion, so I've never seen you guys play. Do you guys think you might want to get back together for a reunion show or something? Let's get together for drinks. Within like an hour and a half, we had built a text thread with all of us,
right?
With Wim and Chris and Brian and Jeff and Dave and me and you and Mike and everybody. It was the whole. Everybody was in. Everybody was like stoked. Let's do it. And before we'd even gotten together to rehearse, everybody was kind of like, well, what if we got back together instead of just like, let's do a reunion show? Why don't we just kind of see if we can't start playing again?
Yeah, I think what happened was we kind of put a goal like, hey, let's get together, let's start jamming, and let's just make a goal to play a reunion show and see where it goes from there. If we enjoy it, we'll keep going.
Right.
We played with Add On Q Music, hosted by Dan Quintana. Shout out, Dan. And at about the same time, we got an invitation to go to Boho Studio to record some music, and we got booked for another gig with the Makeways. It was a Halloween show, I believe. So before we even finished that night, we had 2 dates, and before we knew it, we didn't really have time to like talk about it. And we ended up playing, I think, 2 more shows. I want to say we played a show at a lighthouse. I can't remember, but we played.
Yeah, I think we played it at Scalloween with Makeways and Arrogant.
Yep.
And who else was on that show? There was one other band, and I don't want to forget them.
And Slick Daddies.
Slick Daddies. That's right. And that was a blast.
That was fun.
That was the show that it was going to be in this really kind of sketchy joint, and everybody was like, yeah, we're not going to go there. And so like the week of the show, they were able to secure the some space at all right.
It's Holiday. Yeah, Holiday City Municipal Building, or like a rec center or something like that.
But that was great, man. It was a great room. It was a good stage, plenty of room.
The bad side, it was just such a short notice of change. So it was like, we probably would have had more people show up had it not.
I don't know. But I think that the people that were coming to the show were coming to the show anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think, and I think that if anything, it probably encouraged more people to come, because it's like, oh wait, they're not playing in Sketchville. Sure, I'll show Holiday. Nothing ever happens in Holiday, man.
Right.
Plus, there's Taqueria 27 down the street. So,
but anyway, so we did that, and then we just kind of strung it along, and we actually wrote a song, which is still in the works, and it'll still get released. So as far as if you guys had any questions about what Hooray Who is doing, and whether it's like, are we done? Are we not done? What's going on with Hooray Who? We took a hiatus. So we played a show in February, I believe, at Davis. What was it called? No, it was, can't remember the name of it. Anyway, we played a gig there. It was a great show, great place. A lot of people I hadn't seen in a long time. And then I think at that point we were just kind of like, and at that time we actually acquired Kevin Tall from played trombone to replace Dave, who had since left.
Dude joined Hooray Who and got to play one show, and then we were all like, all right, peace out.
Yeah, well, and so I don't want to say that Hooray Who is done. We're not done, but
yeah, it won't ever be done.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you when there'll be a new show coming up, but I do think we kind of come to the realization, like, man, this is just, it's tough. And
well, it's just a matter of getting a show booked, because I think that every time we've talked about it, and everybody, and especially I know, every time, Jeff's playing with Verraro or doing something up in Ogden, hey man, so-and-so really wants us to come play. All right, man, well, let's set it up. And I think it's just a matter of time for Hooray Who before we finally, we book a gig, and then we'll get some rehearsals going, and we'll play that gig, and then and then we'll put it back on the shelf for a little while. But I don't think Hooray Who will ever be done.
No, it'll
Not
just
until
be,
it is, but
yeah,
it'll just be in this permanent. Will they? Won't they? We don't know. Tune in later.
But I can tell you this, and I'll get into it a little bit more. But there'll always be like Hooray Who has been it's been a part of me. It's like since 1994, I think 93 is when it all kind of started for me. So it's been my little baby since over 30 years now.
Right.
So it's hard to just like let that go, but as far as that goes, like Matt was saying, it's like, well, we hope that there will be a reunion show. Maybe once in a while we'll do that. We kind of just come to that conclusion, like, hey, we don't really need to write anything new with this band. We're not in a position to be that active, but we are in a position to be.
Really, the tough thing is just because, like you mentioned before, the logistics of it makes it so hard to write and develop new material. Because
Correct.
when you're only rehearsing, once every other week, 2 rehearsals a month. And if you have gigs booked, then you've got to devote some of that rehearsal time to keeping the set tight. And it just doesn't leave the time to let those songs develop, because that's really how we always operated was, when we'd have an idea or an idea or a riff or the bones of a new tune. It would be about just being able to jam out on that thing,
right. And it's
for hours.
And it's kind of unfortunate because, there's so much talent in that band. But anyway, I digress. So because of just the frustration of like wanting to do more than the band was capable of doing, I decided to try Z Frequency and reboot that. And the way I was going to do that was, I have these songs, but I wanted to include just about everybody I could include. And my thought was, well, I'll just send stems to guitarists, and then they have their own studio, they can record their tracks, and then just send me the tracks back, and then the drummer can do here and the bass, and then everybody can do their parts and send it back, and then I can mix it here, and it'll be like a complete band, which it was. It just, nobody was ever in the same room at the same time. Like, that never happened all year long, but some of the music is just absolutely amazing. So it turned out to work out really good, and the hopes was, the focus for this year was to just try to grow, awareness, put music out, and then next year, which is going to be 25, we were going to kind of dial in and try to see how we could do it live. And the way I think we're going to do it live is similar to the way it's in the studio. It's just, there'll be a dedicated group of musicians that will be more willing to learn all of the songs that we're going to be doing. But the thing is, it's interesting. It will be interesting anyways. The stems can be added and taken depending on who's available. So we could have, maybe 4 guys, and we're not for whatever reason, we don't have a drummer. We can just add the drums into that mix and do a complete show that way. I fully expect to have a drummer, but I don't know what that's going to look like. So that's kind of the big thing. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But just to start off, because we've been rambling now for about 20 minutes, I wanted to go through the songs real quick and release them, or tell them out as they were released. And we'll go ahead and start. The first one was released on the 5th of January. It was called Ghost, and it featured myself, Matt on backing vocals, Jeff Huso on guitar, and Michael Lesko on percussion. And shout out to Steve Mazur Jr., who did the artwork for that one.
Old friend of ours, man.
Right.
Son of an old friend of ours.
Son of an old friend.
A friend of ours that's older than we are.
Well, he's a friend. He's a friend too. Him and his son are
absolutely,
good.
Absolutely. But I mean, we met Steve Jr. when he was about 5 years old.
Yeah, he was just a kid.
Yeah.
And then I liked that one because it reminded me. It was one of those songs that it was a little bit removed from a bunch of the other stuff. 'Cause most of this stuff was written like 4 years ago, and a lot of it was written on a cigar box guitar, and then it was just retranslated into, actual guitars, but not all of it. Some of it was, keyboard related, or, but there was always this weird, like, it's almost a definite difference. Like when you when I would compose on the cigar box guitar, it had just a different kind of vibe to it versus like something I would write on the piano or whatever. And Ghost was more on that synth side, you know, and having Jeff Huso do guitar, he actually wrote like 6 tracks or something like that and sent it to me. And then I ended up using all of them. But yeah, that was a good song. It was a good start. I promoted the hell out of it. I didn't know what I was doing. I made all kinds of crazy reels and lip syncs and stuff. You know, I was watching all these videos on how to, you know, like I was really heavily focused on social media. So at this time, we weren't doing any paid marketing at that point. And then in February, what does it say? 16th, February 16th, we released Gone to Hell. And that one was that kind of a rock reggae, very kind of melancholy. I wouldn't say call it melancholy, but it was kind of a surreal, somber type of song, but it was a rock reggae song, and featuring myself, Wim Becker on guitar. Matt was doing trumpet and backing vocals. Then we introduced Mike Lomax on the drums. And then we got in touch with Zach Craigle, who is the guitarist for Insatiable, but also plays saxophone, amazing saxophone player. And I hit up Rick Anderson, who was one of the original members of Swim Herschel Swim. It's a local legend ska band. And he played bass on that one. And then I had Michael Lesko play percussion. And that's one of my favorite songs. I really love it. It's mellow. It's mellow, and it's kind of like this, I don't know, the vibe on it is like, it just, yeah, like you refuse.
It's a cool, mellow reggae, but and honestly, and it has a lot to do with the way the guitar riffs follow, is that it always kind of gave off kind of a Police vibe.
Yeah, that, and it was just about, I think that for me, the lyrically, it was like, you know, this world sucks, you know, but I refuse to give into it, you know, like I refuse to let it drag me down, because it's not always, you know, like even if you're going through a rough time in life, you know, like there's always seems like things, you know, it evolves, either you evolve out or you evolve, you know, but the whole premise of that is just ride out the storm, you know, there's a storm, but ride it out, life will get better, and the world's gone to hell, but I'm not going to let it drag me down. So
Right.
so it's like an uplifting song, but with really, it's almost like that Smith song, you know, Girlfriend in a Coma, you know, it's
just listen to that today.
Did you? Yeah.
Oddly enough. Well, you know, the cool thing though, too, with bringing Zach Craigle into the mix is that Zach Craigle's dad was my yearbook advisor in high school. He was the photography teacher at Highland High School, and my senior year took over being the yearbook advisor. And Zach's younger brother, Josh, was the drummer in the jazz band in high school. So I've been connected to the Craigle family since shortly after I met you.
Yeah. Well, small world, you know.
Yeah, it is Small Lake City, baby.
Yeah. And then, so moving on, so there's February, then we get into March, and on March 19th, we released Old Dog New Tricks, and that's featuring Matt and Mike Lomax, Rick Anderson on guitar and bass, I believe, and Zach Craigle on saxophone and Michael Lesko on percussion. And that whole song is just paying homage to the Utah ska scene from the 90s, you know, and how inspirational it was for us. And it's one of the funnest songs we did, for sure.
For sure. Well, and just the fact that like 2 of the contributing musicians on that track had so much to do with that 90s ska scene, man.
Right. Zach Craigle and Rick Anderson are like,
I mean, it's
some of the OGs.
Because Swim Herschel Swim and Insatiable are 2 of the Mount Rushmore of Utah ska.
Right. And I just absolutely adored Swim Herschel Swim. And I got a really cool compliment from the unspoken hero of that band, which was Dave Merkley. And he reached out to me and just said, "Hey man, I was talking with Lou. You remember Lou from
Lou Eastman.
Yeah, Lou Eastman from Frog Lick. He was a big part of Swim Herschel Swim as well. Shout out to Lou.
He played guitar for Swim after Rick.
Correct. Yep. And then, but anyway, they're still friends. They were talking, and he's like, yeah. And I just had to mention, I listened to it, and he's like, I'll be honest, I didn't even know anything about the song, but just the cover, the artwork cover made me want to click on it. And he just appreciated it. And I love that dude. I have a poster of his when he did a poster of, I think it was called.
I have the same poster hanging in my bedroom, man.
It was a phenomenal artist, and I don't think he really does the drawing stuff anymore, but I still reach out to him here and there. But
come up with, it'd been such a huge fan of Swim Herschel Swim, and the fact that their artwork was so singular. It was, you knew when you saw a drawing of anything Merkley did in that style, you knew that would just scream Swim. So that was a Scalloween show we played in the Catfish days. And to have a poster with our band on it, drawn by Merkley. Opening for Stretch Armstrong. I mean, it was just like my little ska heart overflowed that.
Right. And so that whole song was paying homage to the whole ska scene and all the ska bands. We listed a few in the lyrics, and there's probably like 30 more that we didn't get to mention, or they were all amazing and perfect.
Incidentally, that track too, Kerry Jackson from Radio from Hell loves that tune. And in fact, I remember the day we released it, I was on the road for work, of course, and it was a Friday morning, and I was in the car, like, pre 6 a.m. I'm in the car heading back to Salt Lake, and Kerry opened the Radio from Hell show with that song and plugged us on their show. And it was just kind of, I'm driving through Colorado in the dark of the morning, listening to my favorite morning show, and here's my band's new song, leading the show off. And
it was straight up ska. It's just a straight up ska tune, and it's fun. It was really fun. But yeah. So that was March.
That takes us into April. And on the 25th of April, we released a pop ballad called Resort. And to this day, man, I think that Zach, in my opinion, you wrote a really amazing love song.
Thanks, man.
It's just, it's fantastic. It
dedicated to
tells
my
the
wife.
story, man.
Yeah, dedicated to my wife. She did write that, dedicated it to her, and turned out so good. And that one's featuring Matt doing backing vocals. There were no horns on this one, so it's just straight kind of an alt rock song. Did vocals, and Mike Lomax did drums. Chris Olsen was introduced into Z Frequency at this point, and he did the guitar work for it. He did such a phenomenal job. And then Jeff Aaron did bass, and he also did a phenomenal job. Like the whole thing just kind of knocked it out of the park. And I think for me, that was the point where waiting for that song to be released, and I was kind of going through that, here's the mix, what do you guys think? It was like this back and forth and stuff. And I was listening to it in my truck one morning, early in the morning, because I work early. And I got one of those kind of like the tingly feels, like, man, it hit me in the feels. And I'm like, okay, this was a good one. This is really good, man. I might be onto something, and at that point we started kind of digging into, we were playing around with marketing, music ads and stuff using Hyped It. Did not a whole lot, but it's kind of where we started with that. And then in conclusion, I'm not going to go into details with it, but I experimented with all kinds of stuff. Like, so I did like Submit Hub, and I think Pitch Us maybe was one, or a couple of the playlisting, pitch things, and almost all of them really suck, to be honest with you. Like, it was like, I'm going to pay you money to have these like curated music snobs tell me how, I'm not making the cut, and it was just like, let me pay you to rip me apart, so. But I will tell, and I'll cap it off with this, I will tell you that if you're going to do advertising, meta ads so like Facebook, Instagram ads, that's probably the best. For discovery, TikTok is probably the best as of right now, unless they ban it. And another one I just started, which I actually had some really good success with, was called Song Tools. So my recommendation, you can use Hyped It. Hyped It makes it easy. You basically release the song, and then they have their own little program. It's like plug and play. They raised their price just last summer to $20 a month, and they supposedly have this AI feature that you're supposed to like be able to put your music in, and then it goes through this system and say, oh, you sound like this band and this band, you know, or these, you should target this group or this. Not always bands. Sometimes it's like McDonald's or something, you know, or real estate investors or whatever. But it's supposed to help, and I think when it works, it's probably pretty good. But our genres are so far all over the place, and like my music is so different that I can't tell you more than not that I ran it through their system, and they're like, we got nothing, you know. And so then I'm like, what am I paying you for then? So I think in the future I'm going to probably drop that subscription with the Hyped It, but I'm not knocking them, you know. Like, so if you're just starting out, you know, Hyped It's probably a good choice to at least kind of get the feel for it and kind of get into what it's all about. But and I can give a shout out to some YouTube guys to follow if you are interested in growing your channel. There's a few that I follow pretty religiously, but that's when we started doing advertising.
You know, I think though too that there is no one-size-fits-all game plan for this.
Correct.
You know, you experiment, you try different things, you find out what works for you, and then you learn from it, and then, you know, that way you can focus your advertising budget, your time, your efforts on the mediums that are better effective for you.
Well, and I think a lot of that too depends on your age too and your demographic. So like we're 50 years old. Most of our fans are older adults. So Facebook is our home, you know, where most bands, and my advice to most up and coming bands is stay away from Facebook. You know, use whatever platforms that you're spending most of your time on, and your friends are spending their time on, and your fans. That's where you want to focus, and don't worry about. I mean, you can have a minor presence on all of them, but put your hat. You know, like put most of your eggs in one or two baskets, you know, and just kind of roll with that. Like a good example is Vallejo, not Vallejo. Is it? What's the band that played with us with Hooray Who in February? Not Verraro, Valhalla. So Valhalla, they're pretty young, but they are Instagram kids, right? So that's right. Their home, and they do really well on Instagram, and their music is perfect for their age, and so.
I see Valhalla all over my Insta feed, all over my TikTok feed, whereas we're men of a certain age.
Right. So you don't
want to listen to our music.
Right. But even if you are, let's say you are younger and you're focusing your attention on Instagram or even TikTok, putting ads, you know, like I would suggest if you're going to run ads for Meta, using Meta, I would just start with Instagram and not even worry about Facebook. For us, it's different because we're older, so I do Facebook and Instagram, but my advice, I guess, would be just stick with Instagram at first. But anyway, that's it for the marketing. I'm going to continue doing marketing, but I think I'm going to start doing it myself, you know, and I think what Hyped It does for you is it kind of just takes out a lot of the hard work. And so you just, like I said, you plug and play, and it kind of does it automatically. And it does a pretty decent job. I think I could do a better job myself. Problem is you got to learn that learning curve with Meta and running ads, and it's a rabbit hole you got to go down. But I've been doing it enough where I'm like, okay, I feel like I can handle this myself, and you have more flexibility, you know, as far as your ad creative, meaning you can make your own videos and you just have more control. And like with Hyped It, you have to have a minimum of $5 a day for your budget, you know, which, you know, really technically you could do it with $1 a day, you know, if you did it by yourself. So anyway, the plan was to, you know, push out a song and then just keep pushing them out till one of them hits. And that happened actually.
Yeah. In May. Speaking of mixing up genres, we go from the alt rock pop ballad that would feel right at home at the end of a John Hughes movie. Nice. To a song called Thrill Seeker that actually, you know, kind of blew up for us. You know, nothing earth shattering, but for us, it was huge.
Right. It was the first one to hit 1,000 streams, and it just kept going. It got picked up by Spotify lists. I can't remember which one it was. Radio, Discovery,
was it Release
Radar, something. Somebody picked it up, and it pushed for quite a while. And then that was to date, that is our highest streamed song, but it's like if you like Oingo Boingo and Danny Elfman, you're gonna like Thrill Seeker.
Yeah. Well,
That's
you know,
just the way
when you sent me the bones of it before we started, plugging everybody in and recording all of the stems and everything, it's immediately right out of the gate, I'm like, this has such Boingo vibes to it. And it's like at that point, okay, we've got this song that sounds very Oingo Boingo. So as we fill in and flesh it out, do we try to move away from that, or do we just lean into it and go full on, almost write a song that could be a Boingo tribute song? Obviously not a Boingo cover, but a song that would sound...
It's a song that Oingo Boingo could play themselves and everyone would feel like, hey, this is a new Boingo song.
Right.
Yeah.
No. And it was so fun.
But that features myself. It features Matt on trumpet and backing vocals, has Mike Lomax on drums, Zach Craigle on sax. Kevin Tall played the trombone on this one, and Michael Lesko played percussion. And I introduced an old friend, Greg Griffith, to play guitar on it. And I just knew that he would deliver.
Greg
envisioned it. And so
Greg is a Boingo disciple like we are. I mean, big time. He like Bartek is one of his guys.
Max. I mean, all of these guys.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be honest with you. Like, if you look it down the list, and just about every single
Boingo,
one of them.
Boingo. Yep. But I mean, Greg goes all the way back to our first. He was playing guitar for us on our first gig with Deep Blue.
That's right. And he was the first guitar tracks for like the original Hooray Who, Michael's House, and Ethiopian Square Dancing. He did those two songs, and we're talking like 1993, 94, like these were, we were just out of high school at that point, and such a cool dude. And he knocked it out of the park. It's very metal, you know what I mean? Like, I remember sending it to Brandon to listen to. He's kind of like I have a handful of third party, like I'll send out, what do you think, and he's like, dude, this is like ska metal, like he's all, this is hard, but it is a really cool song. It's just about living on it's just living for the thrill, like there's anyway, you'd have to just listen to the song. But that was by far our best performing song on Spotify, still is to this date. And I did, right before we did this episode, I kind of did a thing on the socials, like, hey, what's your favorite song? And the number one pick was Thrill Seeker.
Yeah, I voted for Thrill Seeker.
So did I. And the number two actually was Resort. So, and the third was the very next song that we put out, called Sunsets in Summertime. And that was put out on the 20th of June. And
in my 11-year-old daughter Quinn's words, Dad, it's a crime that Sunsets in Summertime isn't the official anthem of the summer this year. It's just a great summertime reggae jam. In fact, my older daughter Kira loved it so much that she actually asked for an instrumental version of the song, just to be able to have as jam music and whatnot, which Zach obliged. Thank you for that, by the way.
Absolutely. I'm gonna start doing that, actually, by the way. So as we put out new music, I'm going to put out an instrumental version that's available for sign up. Like, if you sign up for our mailing list, you'll get the instrumental version, or I'll just throw it out to those guys. Or if you're already a subscriber.
How do I get on that mailing list?
You just go to zfrequency.com, and right up front there's a subscribe.
That's zfrequency.com?
Yes, zfrequency.com.
So you're at zfrequency.
Go there. If you haven't signed up, sign up for the mailing list, and usually that comes with a free download of some sort. I can't remember what's on there now, but if it's not on there right now, just hang tight, because as new songs come out, I usually change that up and offer that, or I'll offer the new song itself. So, like, a lot of times if you subscribe or put yourself on a pre-save for like Spotify or whatever, you can download the song before it comes out on Spotify. But yeah,
you can have it before anybody else. But so on Sunsets in Summertime, though, Zach's, of course, singing lead. I've got the backup vocals and the trumpet. We brought back in Zach Craigle on sax and Kevin
Right.
Tall on trombone.
Right.
My horn section, baby. And this one had, of course, Mike Lomax on drums.
Correct.
And Wim Becker came back in for the guitar riffs on this one. And
Yeah.
everybody killed it, man. Everybody
and the
killed
bass.
it.
Actually,
and the bass.
Wim did both the guitars and
Right.
yeah,
That's right. He did double duty.
Yeah, he double dipped on that one, and that was
That's gonna be tricky for him when we play it live, man. Let's see how crafty his fingers are, man. Can he play both at the same time?
no, he can't. But if he wants to play bass, I take the guitar, keep the guitars in. If he wants to play guitar, I keep the bass in. It's pretty easy.
Righteous.
Yeah. So, but yeah, excellent musicians. Like that's the one thing. I'll just say it right now. Before I just feel blessed to be surrounded by such amazing talent, and that we got 3 more songs to go over, but like I said, we had a chance to sit down with Jeff Huso, and I think now's a good time to plug that little interview in. We just
Let's
asked
check
him
in
a few
with
questions.
Jeff. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk to him a little bit about his experience laying the tracks for us. I mean, he was our maiden voyage. He helped us pop the Z frequency cherry with this iteration in this year of releases.
Yeah, and just so you know, Jeff and I've known him since high school as well, and he's always been one I looked up to, and it's just funny because he looks up to me, I look up to him. Like we're like Forrest Gump, you know, like you lean on me and I lean on you, and that way we don't slip in the mud. You know, that's kind of that kind of bond, you know. But yeah, so let's go ahead and we're gonna play that right now, and then we'll come back after this. Hello, ZHZ Podcast community. Were you aware that our featured artist songs are available on a specially curated Spotify playlist named the Guest List? It's the perfect spot to connect with our guests and experience their music. Find it by searching for the ZHZ Podcast Guest List on Spotify, or simply use the provided link. Support local artists and explore their work. Go for it. Share a little bit about how you got involved with Z Frequency. Obviously, it was an invitation by myself, but what was your initial thoughts with the collaboration idea that I threw at you?
It wasn't the first remote work that I've done, but I think it was the first remote work that I've kind of taken direction with. Like you kind of said, okay, here's this song. You can do what you want. However, this is kind of the
Vibe.
story
Yeah.
per se. Yeah, the vibe per se. So it was cool to have that because it pushed me a little bit. Plus, you're a damn good musician, so it makes me try to match that.
No, man,
So-
you're great.
So,
Thank you, though.
you know, I'm doing like 25, 35 different takes of the same thing, and I'm like, no, I didn't like that fret buzz or whatever. And so I'll do it again and again, and I thought it was pretty cool.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then just to hear how you polish it all off, because you know how to do this stuff really well, and it makes me sound good.
Yeah, no, well, I
So
mean,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, the first track was Ghost. It was like a composition that I've wanted for years to turn into a song, and it just never hit. And with all of the other songs, like, because when I decided to do this, like, I'm going to put out a song every month, I had a list of I already had all the songs kind of worked out, and or at least the ones I was going to do, and that one was always a little bit removed from everything else, and I couldn't have picked a better guitarist to lay down on that. So it's a pretty
Thanks, man.
yeah. I think
appreciate that.
it was a pretty small lineup on that one too. If I recall, it was just you, me, Matt, and Mike Kolesko did some percussion work on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your creative process like throughout, you know, when Zach reaches out to you, hey man, this is what I kind of want to do, here's this track, and you start listening to it, what kind of, what was your process like, and what kind of influences did you try to bring from your, stable of skills and influences to bring the sound that ended up being what, made Ghost kind of, because it's a very, the guitar riffs in Ghost are, they're very prominent, they're very important, they really kind of drive the song.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. All I tried to do is kind of follow, I didn't try to overshadow anything that was already existing in the song. I just tried to play kind of along with it, but I also, at the same time, I wanted the guitar to be noticeable, and I don't consider myself like proficient or good or anything like that. So I don't do fancy stuff. So
You're
so
humble like me,
kind of
dude.
try to.
You do such a great job.
Well,
though.
serious.
Like,
If you told me to sit down and play this song or whatever, I wouldn't be able to do it. Even if it was one of my own songs, probably.
yeah.
It's got to be with music.
Right. I know. I
So
get what
can't
you're
noodle.
saying.
I can't noodle around on it. So for you to provide that soundtrack for me to play to, I think that's where the inspiration comes from.
You hit it really well.
So-
I think if I remember right, I was like, I'm kind of going for like this sleigh bells sort of sound. And you sent me like, I want to say it was like 5 or 6 guitar tracks. And you're like, oh, just pick
Probably.
your best one. And I used all of them. And you're like, whoa, you see, like all of a sudden it was just this wall of guitar, And yeah, I thought that was pretty funny, but I was like, no, this is a great song. And it's funny because out of all the tracks that I've produced this whole year, that one's been buried. You know what I mean? Because it was the first one, and
Right.
I've got to do some like resurrection on some of this stuff. So, but yeah, no, that was a great one. And then let's see, you did another one, Good as It Gets, too, if I remember right. You did the bass for that one today.
Oh yeah. That's right. Yeah, you asked me to do the bass and guitar if I could, but
Right.
I felt doing both of them was too much Jeff Huso.
Well,
Kinda.
the funny thing is, I'm kind of
So-
glad you said that because Sam Potter took up the guitar work on that.
Yes,
And then,
Dude.
and then I, yeah, and I,
killed it.
And that was filthy, man.
right.
Yeah.
Filthy.
Yeah.
It's just, I love it. So that's actually, it's funny because like, I love these songs until they come out, you know what I mean? And then I'm like, I hate it. And then, you know what I mean? And then I'm like, oh, but I've got this new one I'm working on. I'm really stoked about it.
It's always
you know?
about
and then,
the shiny new toy, though, man.
Right,
It's like,
and then-
'cause
Exactly.
by the time we
Very much so.
release a song, it's been we've been excited about it. We've been
it's been
grinding. Okay, now it's done, and now it's out, and it's like I've listened to this song so many billion times.
Yeah, like you just like
times.
it's hard to
Yeah.
be and you're supposed to pretend to be excited about it, like, hey, I got this new song out, yeah, and you're like, man, it was like, anyway,
And it's old as well. Like when you put out a new song, these are processes and mental, catharsis that are months in the past now.
right,
By
right.
the time
like
that everybody else hears
exactly.
it.
You've
So
already
that
went
they're
through
like-
that. Yeah,
Yeah, I had one friend one time. I wrote a really dark song, and he's like, "Are you okay?"
yeah. and you're like,
When he heard it, and
Yeah.
then I'm like, "This was
Yeah.
a year ago,
Well,
dude."
I
Yeah,
wasn't.
Right.
I am now.
Right.
Thanks for
Exactly.
asking.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, and that's a very good
So-
point. So that's I deal with that, and I grapple with that every time a new song comes out. But then,
Mhm.
and I don't really make a habit of just like listening to my own songs for some reason. Like I hardly ever listen to anything by Catfish or Hooray Who or any of my stuff really. And just recently, because we're doing this episode, I'm like, I should probably listen to my music, and so listening to them, I'm like, this is really good stuff, man. Sounds pretty good, like, wow, I'm all proud of myself. Like, I actually did a pretty good job on those, that could only happen when I have, collaboration with talented musicians like yourself, dude. So I'm
Thank you.
honored
Thanks,
that
man.
you're a part of this. And speaking of, like, what were some of the challenges and highlights that you experienced when you like parts are remotely, like I send stuff to you and then you record it and send it back. How was that processed? Would you find it like it was easy or difficult or?
part that sucked the most was trying to deal with friggin' Dropbox.
Oh,
Because it either likes you or it doesn't. So like I'll upload some files and then I'm like, all right, here you go. Here's the link. And then, lo and behold, it says I don't have permission or whatever.
Yeah,
So
and you have to go through the
just
hoops,
navigating that, it was
think-
probably the biggest pain.
Is there a particular moment or memory, collaboration with Z Frequency that stands out, especially memorable or meaningful? Like, what is your favorite part about doing this with me or the band? I guess.
The trust.
Yeah.
Like the trust. because you're putting a great deal of trust in me, and I'm putting a great deal of trust in you as well. I remember, oh man, I don't know if you remember the song Chance a while back. You asked if I could do drums for it, and I did so bad. I'll admit it right now.
That's right. Oh my gosh.
Because at first you were like, could you try to tighten it up?
Well, you're right. Okay, so we have bounced tracks before, but that was...
It was a long time ago.
It was, and it was...
And I think I sent you an MP3 of
I think...
drum track, and it was bad. I couldn't...
But I think you just got the drum track, or the drum set, and you were like, got a new drum set, and I'm like, cool, But that's okay,
it was
though.
So bad. And,
I think I finished it, but I never, like, published it, I'm like, this isn't going to make the cutting board.
I know. That's.
But
sorry.
I love don't be sorry, because that was part of like me learning how to do this.
Part of
like
the process,
it was, it was my
early.
All of those little pieces here and there, and working with this guy and working with that guy, and with Hooray Who reuniting. I don't think any of this Z Frequency, because Z Frequency technically has been around for a while. It was kind of like this side project before Hooray Who, and then I got into motorcycles, and that's what I started. I started doing this dad bod moto vlog channel, and I was having a lot of fun.
Awesome, by the way.
But then Hooray Who, the buzz about, everyone reuniting came around, and I decided to go ahead and try it, and that kind of just backburned the whole, motorcycle channel thing.
Yeah.
But in doing that and going through that process of like, logistical nightmare of 8 guys on every other Saturday. And so I think because of the stuff that you were mentioning about sending like the drum tracks way back then, and then having to deal with like the frustration with Hooray Who, that's how this new launch got started. And so I feel blessed for all of those experiences,
I mean, you're talking about like, remote production and, doing the remote thing. I think that I think COVID really kind of jump-started a lot of kind of thing, because we a lot of cases we really didn't have a choice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But now that we're kind of through that, especially as far as Z Frequency goes, this is how Z Frequency is going to be on the studio side. Why don't you share some of your thoughts on the impact of technology on remote collaboration in the music industry, and where you kind of see it going in the coming years?
Oh gosh, where I see it going? I think one of the cool things, Zach and I were chatting last night about the software that's at hand, like instantly. I picked up the Korg Legacy collection for keyboards last. So technology-wise and remote-wise with the internet, that is, like a full room of keyboards just right there, and you don't even have to leave your house. It's cheaper.
You don't even have to leave your laptop.
Exactly. It's better quality because there are there's no analog hum coming from the keyboards or anything. They're right in your DAW, and if you don't like it, swap it out with another sound, with another patch or whatever. Not my style to do that anymore, but
like we were talking about, you were talking about modular soft sense, and like, you can patch out and patch in, and I'm like, I played with that, and I'm like, I guess for a diehard that would be cool, but I'm like, this is
I don't
either. But it's cool to see. It's cool to see like this wall of like patchwork,
exactly.
It just looks cool to see all that stuff. But I'm like, I'm not. It's so easy to just like, do a drop down menu and go, I'll try this preset,
That's what I do too. Then I'll kind of tweak it.
Yeah. Hey Z fam. You can watch the entire conversation with Jeff Husso by clicking the YouTube link in the description below. Now back to our New Year's Eve recap of 2024.
We go into July, and on July 18th, we released Good As It Gets. And that's featuring me on vocals, Matt on trumpet, backing vocals like usual. Jeff Husso did the bass guitar for this, and he actually did it as kind of a pinch, because if I remember right, I had asked Scott Francis to play, and then he couldn't do it. And then I asked Wim Becker to do the bass on it, and he had to bail for whatever reason. He was like, I just I'm not feeling it on this one, and so I was like, crap. And by that time, everybody had already done all their parts, and so I hit up Jeff Huso, and I was like, hey, man, can you
help me out, brother?
Yeah, I needed you to bail me out, and he nailed it. And then we introduced Sam Potter, good friend, and he played guitar, and man, it just sounds so swampy, dirty.
It's
love this
filthy,
song,
man. I love it.
Right. And it's got just a bluesy rock grit, and kind of that ushers into a lot of the, like, at this point, I guess what it was July. So at this point, a lot of my songs lyrically, emotionally were like this kind of like almost like a coming to terms with who you are at our age, and what life's got for you, and just learning how to live with the cards you've been dealt. And the song "Good as It Gets" is kind of about that. I wouldn't say call it a midlife crisis, but more like a midlife realization,
Yeah.
or awakening, but yeah. And let's see, Mike Lomax did the drums on that, obviously, too. So Great song.
Yeah. I mean, I think a midlife realization, or it's really about when you come to the point of your life where we kind of are, where it's like, okay, you know what, the dreams I had when I was young aren't gonna happen.
Nor did, like, almost a lot of them you don't really even want to happen,
right?
Anymore. You're like, I wouldn't even want it if I had
maybe,
it.
And so you're like, you're a point of your life where maybe this is as good as it's gonna get. Maybe this is it. And that's okay. It's cool. Look, I mean, right. I've got no complaints about that. If this is as good as my life is ever going to get, I will take it.
Right.
Because I'm content. This is great. I got what I need.
Right. You're you're like, look, I didn't make it to the top, but I'm definitely not on the bottom either, and I feel blessed to be where I'm at anyway. Yeah. And that's
because when you're on the bottom, there's only one way to go.
That's right.
Wait.
So
strike that, reverse it.
Yeah. Yeah,
but that was a good track, man. It's dirty and it's grungy, and not grunge, but it's just awesome.
Classic blues rock, and I'm so glad I did it. But see, now you see the pattern here, right? So you've got like an alt song coming, or alt rock kind of indie song with Ghost, and then it went right into like this rock reggae, and then it went into a ska, and then it went into a soft rock kind of thing, or like just a rock and roll. Pop rock, I think is what you called it, or pop alt. And then
like
it goes
pop
into
ballad, man.
Yeah, and then it like ska metal, and then then you get all of these, like summer sunsets and summertime is another rock reggae song, and then Good as It Gets is just like blues, And then in August we released Remember My Name, and that was on August 20th, and that one changes a little bit from what we had been doing up to that point, because up to that point Matt had been mostly just vocals, like backing vocals, so he was a compliment to me, where Remember My Name, we kind of did it old school, where back in the Hooray Who days, we would kind of bounce lines off each other. And so Matt was kind of a front man on this one. So we split the vocal part. So I actually have it on the list, and not backing vocals but as vocals, and because so I think you did, we did like, we back and forth on verses, I think is what it was, or maybe half the verse and you did the other half. I can't remember.
We kind of split it up, but it's the first time with the Z frequency that we busted out raps going back and forth.
Yeah, so it's kind of a rap song, rap rock or whatever, Like I remember letting my oldest son listen to it, and he said it was
Dad Groove.
Yeah, he called it Dad Groove.
I could take that. I can do Dad Groove.
All right.
I'm a dad, and I groove, baby.
Right.
I mean, why fight it? Why fight it?
Right. And that one actually had an honorable mention. There was a few people that actually liked that song too. And
for me, as far as my personal favorites of this stuff, I think that Remember My Name is probably one of the top three for me, just because, with the Hooray Who revival and then coming into Z frequency and everything, it's a lot of self-actualization and understanding, who I am now compared to who I was back in the day. And for a little while, I was kind of like, and I think that it was just trying to find that swagger and that confidence again that we had back in our 20s.
Yeah, but
Once I found that, but on a personal level, once I was able to find that confidence again and find that swagger again, it just rolled. And it was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm 50, white, and I'm going to rap. So deal with it.
Right. Like, own it. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be, it is what it is. It was fun actually to do. Like, it felt
was a blast,
like,
man.
it was kind of like reminded me of old times when we were doing stuff like that, especially with Hooray Who.
Yeah.
Like, Hooray Who was kind of really big on the back and forth with the rap stuff. And it was,
I remember sitting here at my desk, scratching out my parts of the lyrics, and you would send me over what you had been writing so that I could kind of tie into it, so that it would be cohesive, and it wouldn't just be like Zach wrote some of the lyrics and Matt wrote some of the lyrics, and so it's this kind of weird, but so that all flows and everything, and it felt so good to get back to that, you and me spitting lyrics, trading lines back and forth.
right.
But of course, I mean, obviously it does go into, choruses where it's us harmonizing. So it's not just rap, it's rap and then we're singing.
Yeah, there's always singing
and
involved
harmonizing,
of some sort,
and, but musically it just grooves, And
Cool.
Once again, we had, Mike Lomax on the drums, and then Wim Becker did the bass and guitars for this one again. And man, he killed both of them.
Oh yeah, everything they touch, it's always been great. Like, I've never had any. That's the one thing. Like, and it's just funny because they'll be like, oh, here's the track. Go ahead and play with it if you like it or not. Let me know if you don't like it, or like, all these guys are so humble, and everything they send back to me is just gold. I'm like, I'm not touching nothing. This is beautiful, and it part of the process. It's exciting for Z Frequency and members involved is, like I'll send out the bones to, let's say, usually I send it out to Mike Lomax right away, and he'll do the drum tracks for it. And just listening to him bring those tracks back, and then me and inserting that in place of like the program drums or whatever, like the sample that I was using. Like, it just, every time a new member brings stuff back, it just levels up the song and it gets everybody pumped up. And then, the progression of it is, by the time everyone's done their part and it's just in mixing and mastering phase, like, everyone's pumped,
Right. Well, and what was fun for me about Remember My Name is that it's a trumpet section on that tune. We've got horn harmonies going on, and it's just all me layered on top of me, on top of me.
Yep, that's right. It was like three or four tracks.
orgy.
Right. It was a lot of
that was so, and that was fun to put together, man, because we really did. We layered so many tracks of stuff, in with the horns and the vocals, and it was a blast.
Yeah. And then let's see, in September, the end of September, this now, granted by this is when the ZHZ podcast started up, and we started doing that, and I had kind of dropped the ball. There was a few songs kind of in the mix, and there was I just hadn't had everything put together yet, and I was really busy doing the podcasting. And then it was about this time that I learned that I was going to be going out of town, but I had an old song that I'd written back in 2000 called Pagan Hour, and most of you guys have heard that song, but I found the old stems to it, and it included Jenny Barson, who was she did the violin on it, and she was also backing vocals for that as well. And I had actually reached out to her and said, hey, I think I want to release this song as just kind of like, I feel like it needed to be there. Like, I don't know if I'd ever put it on the album or anything, but I felt like...
She was like, who the fuck is this?
Not at all. She knew exactly who I was. She said, absolutely. So I released that, and then that has so far been the last song we've released. It'll be the last song released in 2024. Those other songs that we were referring to, we have since picked up Tristan Reeder as a trombone player on some of this stuff, and let's see, Jeff Aaron's part of it, Wim Becker, Rick Anderson's playing banjo on one of them, Mike Olesko's doing percussion, Mike Lomax obviously the drums, bass guitar had Jeff Aaron, I already said that I think, and then Jeff Huso is doing guitar work on some of it, and I'm trying to think, John McCollum did one that is a new guitarist that's come out. So another friend I've known forever since I was a little kid. And so I think I tried to add up all of the musicians that were part of Z Frequency last year, and it was like 14 of them.
Yeah,
Maybe 14 or
amazing.
15. Yeah, 15 people. And all from, just from me, I want to say thank you to every single one of you guys, man. I couldn't do this without it, and without all your help and your input. It'll never sound as good. And I look forward to doing this next year, like just keep the ball rolling. But in saying that, we also did 10 episodes of the podcast, and
right.
We interviewed. Originally, it was going to be kind of this mix between maybe little short podcast episodes with just me on it, and then maybe Matt and I doing a subtopic or topic about, and we still probably might do that, but the other format was going to be interviews. And so far it's just been all interviews. And I thought at first I was going to have a hard time getting people to be on the show, and I had a list of friends and stuff that would be willing. And, like Jeff Huso was on there, of course, he would do it. And after a few, I started to get other people. I didn't even have to look at the list. There were people reaching out. Plus it was really easy for me to just message people, but yeah, so we had 10 episodes, and their last two, we had Jake Johnson from Guillotine, which is a Nashville industrial metal band. And then we just got done doing Scarlet Rain, which was a hard rock band out of Utah that is signed to an indie label. And they're just awesome folks. They're amazing.
Well, and that's the fun part, I think, is that we kind of, without meaning to, we kind of found a groove as a long format interview show, just because, it's really easy to talk about, music among fellow musicians. But not only that, but they've all just been such cool people that it's just it's sitting down and even though in a lot of these cases, the show is the first time we're actually meeting these people in person-ish. It doesn't take us very long before we're just shooting the shit like old friends, and we settle into a really kind of a comfortable conversation, and we get to know them on more than just what's on the surface as their band persona.
Sure. I mean, I almost feel like it's something, this podcast, and these interview and the format that we do is more entertaining to you and I than maybe the listener, but I could sit there and shoot the shit with these guys all day long. And
considering launching a podcast? Riverside is the go-to platform that supports you from the planning stage to recording, offers AI editing tools, and assists with uploading your episodes to Spotify and more. Whether you're uploading past recordings, recording directly on Riverside, or exporting your files for editing in your preferred video software, Riverside has got you covered. Additionally, their Magic Clips feature enables you to create shareable snippets of your episodes for social media, generate show notes, and more. Ready to begin? Use our affiliate link in the description below to start for free.
That's kind of what we've been doing. And we'll keep doing as long as there's an interest in it, but I think for the audience to take away is, we're just regular Joes, most of us anyway, we all have jobs, we all have families and lives, and music just happens to be our hobby, and some of us are fortunate enough to make a living at it, and I think that's the ultimate goal, whether you get signed or whether you're doing it yourself.
Not some of us necessarily, but some people.
Yeah, no, and I fully expect to interview all of those people. My ultimate goal is to do exactly that. I don't really want to be signed so much. I just want to be able to make a living doing it. That would be awesome. So because the way I look at it is, you're spending at least 40 hours of your life every week doing somebody else's work, when you think, if I could make a living at it, even at part-time. So let's say you make enough somehow, whatever it is you're doing, whether you're playing gigs or selling out albums or whatever it is you're doing, you make a point enough at part-time level where you're actually making the same amount you're making on a full-time gig or job, regular job, that you start thinking about well, how much more could I do if I had 40 hours extra a week to work on it? Exponentially just go way, And that's the grind. That's the dream. For me, anyway, that's what I want to do.
And that's a huge, leap. That's a huge leap of faith. There's a whole lot of risk in there because, that's the thing is that, there's a more of a consistency and a permanency with, with having that full-time grind with the health insurance and with the consistent, income and everything. But man, that's the dream, that's the dream. Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Right. And then for me, like my ultimate goal would be to make enough to supplement or to match. Let's say I want to match my income or what I'm bringing in. And if I could do that consistently over, let's say I give it 6 months, 6 months of doing that, I'd feel pretty safe about like at that point retiring from the workforce as it is and just doing that full time. It's a long game and you got to play.
Well, and
it
my plan is to ride your coattails so that I can follow you into that life.
Right. Hey, come along, man.
But
the long coattail.
Well, the thing is though, man, is that, from the day I met you, from the first time we ever like talked music and you played some, of your stuff for me and I heard what was inside you, musically and creatively, I knew that I wanted to be part of that for the rest of my life. That's what I wanted to do. I want, because
you felt the rush too.
I felt the rush, and but not just that. It's the, as you go through the years of playing in bands and making music with people, inherently you bond on a spiritual level with those people that you create with that, because it's like, truly any, you go to any Hooray Who song, any Catfish song, any song that we've ever done. And every person who contributed to that track put part of themselves in that.
Right.
And it's a really kind of it's a cool thing. I think it's, very, molecular level. It's probably very similar to what, guys who play on a football team together, experience, or, whatever. Anytime you have a group of people working together for a common goal and pouring themselves into that work together.
Yeah, with Z Frequency, there's just
bonding.
A huge amount of camaraderie, much praise amongst everybody. And, but speaking of, so now that comes up to the end of the year, Happy New Year. Woo, it's January 1st. January 1st.
Drive safe, call an Uber, please.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing at home on New Year's Eve, by the way? Shouldn't you be out partying? Oh, wait. Yeah. I'm in the, I'll watch the ball drop in New York and we're 2 hours behind them. So that's 10 o'clock. Hey, good. Excellent. Happy New Year. I'm going to bed.
Yeah. So be safe, everybody, please. Either call an Uber or don't drive or, come on, let's be smart now.
And if you happen to have a beverage in front of you, cheers.
There you go. Cheers. But moving on real quick, I want to tap off or end this with what we have in store for not January, but 2025. Moving on. As far as the podcast go, we're going to continue a new episode or new season. And we're going to kick it off with a guy named Byron Lacey out of Texas, who is avant-garde electronic creative
musician. He's a sculptor, he's an artist, and he is an alien abductee. So we're going to talk alien abduction, we're going to talk alien races, we are going to talk crazy.
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, the truth is out there, and so that's going to be awesome. And then we're going to have some more. I've got several people and groups lined up in the mix. So it's been kind of quiet, and I did that on purpose. I wanted to be able to relax for the holidays, but we're going to be doing more episodes. The season's going to continue on like it usually does as far as a podcast. And as far as Z Frequency goes, there are 4 songs that are unfinished. Well, 2 of them are finished, featuring pretty much all the same artists that are involved, except for the only addition would be Tristan Rader on trombone and John McCollum on guitar. Those are the 2 new guys to the mix. But I'm gonna release probably 1 or 2 of those as singles, and then the album, whatever it's called, we don't even know yet. We've been talking about names and ideas, but that will be released early next year, probably February, maybe April at the latest. And then moving forward, I'm going to slow down a little bit on writing music and releasing so much. My plan is to do like an EP, have that out, and then maybe 1 or 2 covers. And the big thing is just focusing on working on getting a live set together. So you'll actually be able to see Frequency live. So that's the kind of the goal for next year with Z Frequency is live, just live. Work on, and that may take us all year to figure that out. But
because it's not like the difference between throwing a Z Frequency live show and like trying to deal with the logistics of doing a Hooray Who live show. Hooray Who is a live band first and a studio band second. We make our hay on stage with the live show, and it's just about getting everybody together, tightening up the set, and getting back out there. Whereas Z Frequency, we've got to learn these songs again, because it's like, you learn the lines, you learn the riffs, you get it down, you get it recorded, then you move on and you don't play it again. And so it's going to be about relearning these songs, but relearning them with the musicians that are playing it live. There's a lot to work out there, and I'm very excited for it. And I am too.
It's going to be awesome.
I have no doubt that we'll end up playing a Z Frequency show at some point where it's just you and me, with a recorded track.
I was talking with Mike Olesko about it, and he says, the beauty of that is I can play with a whole band, or I can play as little as by myself. I says, although I honestly think I would never be able to get away with that, before like you or Mike would be like, what the hell, dude, I'm available. Like, why can't I be,
right. You could do it, but we wouldn't let you.
Right. It would be one of those, like, there would have to be a reason why, like I couldn't just be like, oh, I'm going to book a show and not let any of the other guys know about it, but I can't wait. And here's a little hint. They're probably, most likely, I can't guarantee it at this point, but I'm almost 99% sure there's going to be some homage or some other bands that we've done in the past that will be a part of that set. Like Hooray Who. I'm going to play a couple of songs from Hooray Who, I think. I think that would be awesome. And, you mentioned Catfish earlier, and I thought, God, Catfish would be cool to pick a song out of there and add that. Yeah,
but not one of the Hooray Who songs. Just one of the, like, something that, I don't know.
You don't know what?
We should do Gagan Nazi. That's the Catfish song that we need to pull out, is Gagan Nazi.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll toy with the Catfish thing, but I do plan on doing some Hooray Who stuff, so that'll be in the mix. But it's not going to be a Hooray Who concert, but there will be some songs. Just to have you guys all know, like, the first Hooray Who performance was me. Hooray Who originally was just a one-man band. Like, Matt was on a mission.
Yeah, I was still in Chile. I was counting down the days to come home and get back at it. But Zach got up and opened for Stretch Armstrong at Weber State, man.
Right.
And got
that's
up
Hooray
there
Who.
and just played to the pre-recorded instrumental.
Right. So much like what Z Frequency is going to do to some degree, it's kind of funny how that all cycles back.
Right. It's all cyclical, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Up and down and around. All good things.
All good things, man. So yeah, I think, is there anything else you want to add?
Well, I'm stoked for the first 2 tracks that Z Frequency is going to be releasing, come 2025. All of Me is a really great, just brooding, it took for me on it kind of encapsulates what it's like to be in a relationship with a narcissist that just that you just pour everything into.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, and I'm trying to remember the lyric. Yeah, lyrically,
it hit me on several levels. It's not happy go poppy.
No, it's not a happy go lucky song for sure.
And then reckon. Go ahead.
I was going to say it has it's kind of like a rock influence. It's got some rock sounds into it. I think it has Chris Olsen on guitar, if I remember right on that one. And then maybe, is it Chris Olsen? I think Chris Olsen does the guitar work on that one. Yeah, he does. And then, but the vocal work that Matt and I did reminded me a lot of Depeche Mode, and it's a kick-ass song. And then he was going to finish off with Reconcile. Yeah, Reconcile. Yeah. That's the new hot flavor right now, buzzing around with the musicians.
Right.
I just finished mixing it, and I've been throwing it out to everybody. before. I always do this. I always send it out like, hey, this is what I got. Make sure you guys are cool before I put a stamp done on it and submit it. So I think so far I haven't.
Is that the one with John on guitars?
No.
That's track 4 as yet unnamed, unlyricked.
Right.
All right.
Just so when I write music and I don't have names for because I always write the lyrics usually after the fact. So when I write music and write compositions, I always name it the date that I wrote it. And I write it in a certain way that I learned it when I started working for, as a civilian with the federal government. But the way they would date in military would be the year, the month, and the day. And that way it's always chronologically or numerically in order, no matter what you do. So I started doing that. So if you ever, these guys would get a song and they'd look at it and they'd be like, this is a bunch of numbers, it's actually the date that was written, and there's just, it's a placeholder.
Right.
But yeah, right. I think that one's, I want to say that one's December 24th of 2020. Right now, that's the name of that song. And then, but the other one I just finished lyrics for, it's called Waste of My Time. And it's still working on doing the vocal work on that. But yeah, all that's going to be done by the time you even watch this episode. So those will all be finished and won't be released yet, but they'll be finished and be kind of drip fed you guys for next year. And
that one's got Jeff Huso on guitar, Rick Anderson on banjo.
Right. And then Michael Lesko is going to be on percussion.
Throw a banjo into a Cure song, and
yeah, it's like if Dirtwire and the Cure kind of got together and had a jam session. That's kind of what it feels like, because there's mouth harp, there's a didgeridoo going to be in it, a djembe. It's a very ethnic, desert rock kind of instruments involved in it, as well as like just some like emo.
But I mean, seriously though, you'll know what I'm talking about when we release it and you hear it. But like listening to Huso's guitar riffs, it's like it's a song that oddly enough would fit right into like the Crow soundtrack.
Yeah, it's like one of those. Really cool. And then John McCollum did one. The one that he did, it's got a real funk. It's kind of funky and reconciles. Just as Jeff Aaron liked to put it, a panty dropper.
Panty dropper. And 2 of those 4 have my guy Tristan Reeder on the trombone. He's the band director at Fremont High School in Plain City up there in BFE, northern wherever.
Yeah, and then Zach Craigle, he has a job now where he's traveling all over doing media work. Whenever I have something for him in mind, I usually have to put it way in advance. Like, hey, I got something for you. When's the next time you're gonna be in town? He'd be like, oh, it'll be like 3 weeks. I'm like, cool, let's plan something. So
right.
We all find a way to make it work.
But Tristan came through to us through my buddy Rob, from my Utah tailgate family. He's mentioning his son. He's like, you guys should see if my son. And so we started talking to Tristan, and it was like, and he was interested. And then, but then as a band director, they do a lot of marching bands. So like basically August through November, he is unavailable 100% because it's just all marching band all the time.
Right.
And but so, you learn how to work through things, but he is a talented trombone player, and man, was just so creative in the studio. A lot of the horn licks on those songs, he kind of came up with on the fly.
Yeah. So I was going to
in the studio.
Quick story about that, because I invited him here. Like usually we do the horns here in this studio and we do vocal work. But Matt and I usually do. And I had him come in and for the first time, and we're tracking. We ended up tracking 2 songs, I believe. And at the end of it, I come to find out that was the first time he'd ever done any like tracking work with us. And he's like, I've never really been in a studio like this. And I'm like, really? It's like, yeah, I've never recorded. And I'm like, well, you did a great job. So he actually,
I mean, he's done live recording in a live, let's record the orchestra or this big band playing live, but like a wind symphony or a kind of a thing, but never in a studio setting. And he was geeking out, man, because it's
he loved it. He loved it.
It was a blast.
No, he
took to it like a fish to water.
Right. And then shout out to Kevin Tall. Love you, man. Speaking of, like, there's a number 1 fan for Z Frequency, and consistently, like, it's been Kevin Tall. Kevin Tall has been our number one fan all year long, pretty much. I think Brad Lewis was there for a hot minute, and Jesse Milgate was there for a minute. So shout out to all you guys.
Oh, my homie, Kid Rock.
I challenge anyone to beat Kevin Tall as the top fan.
Right.
Good luck, man. Anyway, love all of you guys. I don't think I missed anybody musician wise. I can't even wait to work with some more musicians down the road. Do some collaborations. That would be awesome. But yeah, other than that,
coming soon in 2025, a Z Frequency song with a 12-piece horn section.
Okay,
maybe we'll see.
Anyway,
I can dream, right?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So, Matt, I'll close with you, man. Thank you, dude. Love you, bro. Like, you've always been my right-hand man, and anytime I have these cockamamie ideas, like, hey, you know what'd be cool? If we did a podcast, hell yeah, let's do it,
Let's do a crisscross cover and dress in fucking backwards pants. Sure, man.
That's
why
right.
not?
That's right. I hit him up last night. I'm like, we should I want to do a cover of Jump by Criss Cross. And
I've always wanted to...
I think it'd be great.
Do a remake of Lightning Man by Nitzareb and remake the video where they're just like walking along together and pushing each other around and being goofy.
Lightning Man's that'd be good too, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know what? I'd be down to do a whole Nitzareb cover album, man. I think that putting Nitzareb through the Z frequency filter and Z frequencizing those tunes, I think it'd be fire.
Yeah. So. All right, man.
Well, it's a blast, man. I appreciate you, letting me jump on for the ride. It's a lot of years of a lot of creativity together, and it is, it's always a blast. We have great chemistry. We have, great creativity together.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Bottom line is, man, life is better when you have somebody that no matter what fucking crazy ass idea you come up with, you got somebody that's down to give it a shot.
That's right.
But I won't do that.
Like I always said, you wouldn't be the one I'd call to bail me out because you'd be the one in the jail cell with me.
You're damn right I would be. In fact, I'd probably be the one that got you there.
Man, I'm having some of the best years of my life. Like it's just awesome. Like I'm in an amazing studio. Here's one thing, kids. When you get to be our age, you can actually finally afford some stuff, and it's kind of nice. But here's the catch to that: you sacrifice your time. So, before I had all the time in the world, no money. Now I have money and no time. And trying to balance that is the challenge, right? So, but I'm having a blast doing this with you. I'm going to keep doing this. Thanks to all of you out there for supporting us. And if you haven't subscribed, please do, man. If you haven't listened to Z Frequency on Spotify or Apple, we're on all of them. Pick your favorite. Go check us out. Most of you that I feel like most of you that's going to watch this, at least to this end, are already huge fans. And so
or you've got something seriously wrong with you, and I would go get checked out by your medical professional as soon as possible.
And if you want to know what it's like to be abducted by aliens that as a little kid, then you got to stay tuned for our next episode, which is the start of season 2.
We're going to kick off season 2 out of this world, man.
Until then, you guys be safe.
What a shitty pun. That was awful. I apologize.
Yeah, what up? Yeah, you can apologize to Byron for that. Anyway, love y'all. And I got nothing more to say. Let's bring on 2025 with bang. And it's going to be a great
New
year,
everybody.
Happy New Year.
Stay safe. We love you. Catch you on the flip side.
Peace.